Hey there, everybody. This is Kenny. Welcome back to another edition of the Leading from the Middle podcast. This is the podcast for middle managers who want to develop themselves, develop their teams, and improve their results. I got to talk to the architect of the Warriors Life Code, Martin Salama, joined me, and Martin is just a phenomenal leader. Wait till you hear him talk about how you can go from being a warrior to a warrior. What does the Warriors Life Code actually mean, and why is it important for leaders today? Martin talked about mindset and the need to really have that great mindset, especially today. He gave great advice for leaders today, and he talks about the 4 agreements that leaders should have. You don't want to miss a second of this phenomenal discussion. Let's get at it.
This episode is brought to you by Kitcaster. Kitcaster books you on top podcasts. How do funded startup founders attract prospects and talent? Podcast interviews. How do entrepreneurs with exits find new deals? Podcast interviews. How do C-suite execs differentiate in crowded markets? Podcast interviews. Kitcaster books you on top podcasts. Click the link in the show notes for a special offer. Celebrate good conversation.
Hey there, everybody. This is Kenny. Welcome back to another edition of the Leading from the Middle podcast. I have a phenomenal leader today that is really going to talk about leadership from a great different perspective. So leaders, don't take notes if you're driving, but please play this back and take notes because there are going to be some nuggets that's going to drop right in your lap today. So I want to introduce the architect of the Warriors Life Code, and LIFE is an acronym. He's going to talk all about that. Martin Salama has joined me today. Martin, it is so great to be with you this morning. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing fantastic, Kenny. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here with you.
Oh, thank you so much. I can't wait to get to all of the stuff, and I've got to find out your backstory first because there's got to be some reasons that you have really put this great program together, and you've dedicated your life now to helping others, and you've helped so many. And so tell us your backstory and what led you to develop this Warriors Life Code.
Well, thank you so much. And I would love to say that I woke up and my life was always like, positive and great and happy. But, I've yet to meet anybody who hasn't had adversity in their life.
Oh, no doubt.
And when I meet that person, I'm going to say, please tell me what it is that you've never had anything bad happen in your life. But that person doesn't exist because we all have certain amount of adversity in our lives. And it's how you deal with it that then takes you from where you are to where you're going, good or bad, positive, negative, whatever it is, the decisions you make based on those things is where you're going. I call them defining moments in your life. And for me, a huge defining moment started in the summer of 2008. Now, that might ring a bell to some people out there, 2008. And for me, it rings the biggest bell you can imagine because that was when the collapse of the financial world. Yeah. And for me, my wife and I were working on a project for 5 years to build a multi-million-dollar health club down by the Jersey Shore. And it took us 5 years because, you start first with the idea of, okay, let's think about opening up a tennis center. Okay, great. Let's see if it's worth doing. We go get a feasibility study. They go, yeah, it's great, but it's not going to make you enough profit. You got to have other things like a gym, a membership, all these other things. So we start adding it, doing that. And then we got to find a place. We find a place to put it. Now we've got to, go get architects and engineers and have them create, on paper what it's going to look like. Once all that's done, you got to go to the city and get their approval. And they're like, yeah, this looks great, but we need you to go do civil engineering. Make sure that the traffic isn't impacted too much, that you have enough parking and all that. So you can imagine the process going through this over 5 years, the highs and the ups and downs of it all, highs and lows. And if we had gotten the approval in 2006 or 2007, the bank was like, yeah, we love this project. We can't wait. Your numbers look great. Your projections are fantastic. We're in. I'm like, fantastic. I can't wait. Meantime, I'm feeding this, to pay for the architects and the engineers. And I have investors and my own money and money I borrowed from family for over $3 million.
Wow.
And over those years, I'm like refinancing my house. Every time you hear, oh, the housing market is great, go and, the pricing is fantastic. You can go refi. And it was true. I went from $500,000 mortgage to a $750,000 mortgage to $1 million mortgage in like 3 years,
Wow.
because they kept on saying, okay, we'll give you the money.
Yeah. Wow.
Right.
Wow.
It was like that. It was like walking into the bank. It was like going to Costco and getting samples from those ladies on the end of the, of the aisles. You could go to
Yes.
you could go to Costco and have a free lunch.
Yes. Yes, you can. Yes.
So that's what it was like going into the bank. They're like, yeah, we'll give you whatever you want. And then came the summer of 2008, and things had started to slow down. Now, I didn't know this. I'm going around my business doing whatever I can to get ready to go in the ground. So we get the approval from the town. We go to the bank. We're like, okay, we're ready. And they're like, yeah, we're not. We're like, what?
Oof.
Yeah, we're not lending right now. Well, but you've been telling me, come back and we'll be ready for you. Well, you waited too long. The market's turning, the world is turning. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Well,
Wow.
I woke up one day to a very crazy world in the September of 2008, thanks to Bernie Madoff, the subprime loans, and the entire financial world crashed. As it's 15 years ago, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
15 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're like, now what? I'm wiped out. I have no money left. I'm gone. My project is dead. I have to figure out how to pay my people who I owe money to, my investors, all that. I didn't have any, I stopped paying my mortgage, stopped paying my car payments. A few months later, my son tells me, Dad, look outside. They're towing your car.
Oof.
That never happened to me before.
Yeah.
And, they eventually foreclosed on my house. But being that I lived in New Jersey, there were so many foreclosures. It actually took them years till they finally got in touch with us and said, oh, okay, this is what's happening. And I'd ask my lawyer every once in a while, like, why are they not coming after us? He says, first thing is, don't poke the bear. The second thing is, they're figuring having somebody in the house at such a high valued house that's now lower valued, but still was valued at $1 million at one point, is better than leaving it empty and seeing what's going to happen to it. I'm like,
Yeah. Very
okay,
true.
great.
Yeah.
But it took me about a year to get out of this depression that I fell into, which was literally situational depression because of what was going on. I went through therapy, I went through coaching, and then I came out the other side saying, okay, now what do I want to do with my life? I've been a businessman my whole life. In every level of management that you could imagine, I was in business. So for me, I was like, okay, I never loved doing that, but that was what I had to do. That was what was expected of me.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked around. I said, well, I have a chance to reinvent myself. So let me take advantage of that. And I was working dead end jobs at the time just to have some money coming in. And my family was fantastic. I borrowed a lot of money. So a lot of the residual income I had that was coming in from real estate and stuff started to dry up, but they were still taking care of me, as much as they could.
Mm-hmm.
I give them a lot of credit for supporting me through those years. But I still had to stand on my own 2 feet. And I decided that looking back in my life, one of the things I was always happiest was being involved in community events. And I was a leader. I was always a leader because I watched my parents be leaders in community events, always be the first ones, always willing to do anything. So I did that my whole life. And I realized why I loved it so much was because I loved it when people came into the organization and they said, I want to volunteer sometime, but I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do this. I can't do what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, nobody asked you to do what I'm doing. We're just asking, give us a few hours, a week, a month, or whatever it is, and we'll show you. And what I realized was I was a coach. I was showing them their potential.
Wow. Wow.
Right?
Wow.
So I said, okay, maybe that's what I want to do. I become a life coach. Started looking into it, found a great coaching program, worked out a deal so I could pay them a little bit at a time so that I couldn't afford it, but I knew that that's where I wanted to go. And here's the crazy thing. About 2 months before I was going to start my training, it was my 24th wedding anniversary. And my wife said, I'm done. I want a divorce.
Oh my gosh.
I got to tell you, what went through my head is, what the heck? How does everything keep happening to me?
Yeah. Wow.
and I was angry. I felt abandoned. Every emotion you could think of, I went through.
Yeah.
And I think that God was kind of testing me at that moment,
Mm-hmm.
saying, "Oh, yeah, you want to become a life coach, huh? Well, maybe you should start working on your own life first before you
Yeah.
start working
Wow.
on others."
Mm-hmm.
So looking back now, other than our 4 children, I'd have to say it was the best gift my wife ever gave me,
Wow.
because it kicked me in the pants and made me face reality that things weren't going as well as I thought. Even when things were bad, I was always the optimist I thought I was. But, I was like, oh God. So before I went to coach training, I decided I'm going anyway. This is my chance to figure it out. They handed me a list of books. They emailed me a list of books. They said, read a couple of these books. And one of them was The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. You know that book?
I don't know.
For me, it's a life changer.
Yeah, I'm gonna know it now though. Okay.
Yeah. So one of the agreements is don't take anything personally. I
Mm.
was like, what? What do you mean don't take anything personally? And as I read more of it, I was like, oh my God, this is me. And I started to peel away the layers of my life to recognize why I was somebody who took things personally. I was always a people pleaser. But here's the crazy thing. I was a people pleaser and realizing that I never pleased anyone. Because being a people pleaser, you try to please everyone, you can't please anyone. And you start to
Exactly. Yeah.
rationalize that what you're doing is for the greater good. So
Mm-hmm.
what I've come to realize is that the word rationalize
Mm.
is really 2 words. Rational lies. Can you see that? Oh, sorry. It's 2 words.
Yeah.
Rational lies. Rational lies. I
Yeah.
put the screen up. I'm sorry. The
It's
background,
okay.
but it screws everything else up.
That's okay.
And what I did was recently I came out with my book. It's called Worrier to Warrior.
Yes. From
All
warrior
right.
to warrior. I love it.
And also a card deck. It's kind of like a way for people to carry around and have like tangible things to help them. And in there is my card, rationalize and rationalize. Okay. Whenever you think you may be doing something that goes against your values, you rationalize all the reasons why it's okay. What you're really doing is lying to yourself that it's rational to think that. They're nothing more than rational lies.
Mm.
So
Uh-huh.
for me, that was a huge moment of awareness for me
Yeah.
to recognize those things
Wow.
and understand that, being a people pleaser is not the way to go. Because what else happened as I was peeling away these layers was I took things personally. I was a people pleaser. I was a control freak. I needed the recognition for all the good I was doing because, hey, I'm a people pleaser. Please show me that I'm doing great.
Yeah.
And when all those things didn't happen, I was, I would overreact. I would freak out. I would like, I don't understand what that, and I would lose it.
Mm.
And I had to realize, and it was going through coaching and I go to that first week and they go, you don't have to be who you think you have to be. You could be whoever you want to be. I'm like, wow. But I had to first recognize that these things were the default tendencies in my life that were holding me back,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and accept it, admit it, and be willing to do something about it.
Mm.
And here's the crux of it. And this is an important point. I wasn't doing it to save my marriage. I wasn't doing it for my children. I wasn't doing it for anybody else. I had to be doing it for myself.
Mm.
Because if I'm not doing it from anybody else but myself, it's not sustainable and it won't be permanent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow.
So, and that was a huge thing. So for me, it started out very simply by saying, you know what? I'm going to take care of myself first, as long as I'm not hurting anybody.
Yeah. Wow.
Right. And
Yeah.
then that was my
Absolutely.
way of weaning off being that people pleaser, which I now call myself, I'm a recovering people pleaser.
Wow, what an amazing journey. And I wanted to say my first instinct is, hey, I'm so sorry all that happened to you, but all of that happened to you and look where it got you. It really
Yeah.
just, and your original point about we all go through adversity. What do we do with it? And you've done some amazing things with it. My goodness, what an amazing journey. And I love the rational lies. So we got to get more. So
Yeah.
let's dive into now, because
Yeah.
now I understand your motivation for sure,
All
why
right.
you
Thank
do
you.
what you do daily.
Yeah.
Let's get into the life code. So
Yeah.
what's that all about? Talk to us.
Absolutely. So here I am. I become a life coach. I graduate and I become a divorce recovery coach.
Wow.
Why? Well, because I just went through a divorce.
Yes.
And and again, this is God's hand saying, "Oh, you want to learn to be a life coach. You're going through a divorce. Maybe the things you learn going through coaching will help you get through your divorce."
Mm.
And that's what the truth was, because I came out of it understanding that it was the life coaching that was giving me what I needed to get through those days, those weeks of when I moved out. And I cried for a couple of weeks. Man, I cried for a couple of weeks when I moved out
Yeah.
because I thought my life was never going to be the same.
Mm-hmm.
And it hasn't been, but in a good way. But
Mm.
I always thought, I'm moving an hour back. We were living by the Jersey Shore. I moved back to New York, to Brooklyn, where I lived. I actually moved into my mom's house, the house I grew up in. My
Mm.
mom had got remarried, and we never did anything with the house. The nieces and nephews would rent it, and it was empty. And they go, "Okay, Martin, you're moving in there." And I thank God, because I had my family as a support system around me to get
Yes.
through that. And I also had these new friends that we're making going through coaching, who we are put into positions when we go through training to be coached. And so I had supportive people around me that were objective, as well as my family, who were giving me love. But in my head, I'm also thinking they're judging me, and they think they know everything. You get into your head, you get defensive when it's your own family.
Yeah.
So having those coaches in my life and these friends that I made going through coach training was invaluable to me. And I was like, okay, what do I want to do? Let me become a divorce recovery coach. And that's what I called myself. And I did that for a few years, and I loved it. But then one day I looked in the mirror and I was the heaviest I ever was in my life. And how did I get there? Because I allowed myself to forget that even though I was coaching people, I wasn't being coached.
Mm.
I stopped. I couldn't afford it. I would tell myself and things like that. Now I realize I can't afford not to be coached, you know? And
Mm.
one day, that same day, my friend was on Facebook and he was putting up a post about that you could work out for 30 minutes a day at home watching a video. I'm like, oh, okay. And he goes, "I'll coach you. You join this program, I'll coach you." It was called T25 with Sean T. And I was like, all right, I can find an extra half an hour in my day. I don't have to go to a gym that I can't afford. This is my head.
Yeah.
And drive there, drive back, change. I have a job now. It wasn't paying me very much, but I had to leave the house at 7 a.m. and I had to be home by 7 a.m. I wasn't getting home till 7 p.m.
Mm.
So I was like, okay, I can wake up a little earlier, work out, and then go to work.
Mm.
So I started working out. And what happened was I started feeling better about myself all over. The endorphins started happening. And those first 2 weeks, I got to tell you, Kenny, was a killer, because I'm watching the
Yeah.
lady in the video who's doing the modified, and I
Yeah.
can't even keep up with her. That's how bad it was. But I persisted, and I had a good why. And
Yeah.
guys, you have to have a why.
To have a why. Yes.
Yeah. To me, why is an acronym, again, for another acronym for what's hurting you, what's keeping you up at night.
Wow. Yes.
You know?
Love it.
So in 9 months, I lost 65 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
But I also understood that I was eating right, reading right, exercising, doing all those things. And I talked about awareness before. I went from where I thought I was self-aware, but really what I was I was self-conscious.
Mm-hmm.
And I went from self-conscious to self-aware.
Mm.
And everybody, there's most people, I can't say everybody, but pretty much most people I talk to think they're self-aware until I've explained to them the difference between the two.
Mm.
So you want me to tell you the difference?
Yes, please. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
I got a card.
There you go.
So self-consciousness comes from a place of negative energy, guilt, conflict, doubt. Self-consciousness is more outward directed. It's being more concerned about what others are thinking of you and how the situation is going to affect you. You probably react to uncomfortable situations instead of respond. When you're self-conscious, you're questioning your decisions. There's a little more to it, but you get it.
Yes.
Self-awareness comes from a place of positive energy, acceptance, contentment, self-assuredness. Self-awareness is more inward facing. You have an accurate and realistic understanding of how you are responding to situations and how you feel about things.
I love that. Wow. And you emphasized the word responding. a lot
Yes.
there. How
Yes.
important is that?
Oh my God. It's so important because I was a reactor. I was an overreactor. You could even call me a nuclear reactor because when I lost it, there was fallout all over the place. It was like a mushroom cloud went out and all around there were people. It was funny. I was at a wedding last night and I saw somebody who hadn't seen in about 10 or 15 years. And I introduced her to my wife. She says, "Oh, we were neighbors. And we knew when the bus was coming because Martin was outside screaming, 'Get outside for the bus!'"
That's a fallout for sure. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And for me, I would just leave that fallout all over the place. So I'd come back the next day and say, Kenny, I'm so sorry I blew up at you, but you set me off. You did this and you did that. That's not really an apology.
No.
That's another rationalize.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. What's the difference? Is it just like 3 to 5 seconds? What's the difference between reacting and responding? Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. You remember when you were kids, or if you have kids, when your kids learned from the firemen,
Yeah.
safety in the house.
Yes.
The fireman sends the kids home to learn 3 words: stop,
drop, and roll.
Drop, and roll.
Yeah.
Right? What does that mean? You're in an emergency. There's a fire. Stop what you're doing. Drop to the ground below the smoke, below the emergency, and roll away from what's going on. So I was working on this thing and I'm learning about myself, and I go, you know what? I need to stop what I'm doing. So when I recognize when I'm going to lose it. So I took those 3 words and changed them to stop, think, and respond. Okay, so you're in a situation where it's a conversation that's turning into a confrontation, which is what most of my life was. I didn't have too many conversations. There were usually confrontations because I had to get my point out and I had to be right. So I said, okay, I've got to learn to stop freaking out every time. So number 1 is stop. Stop that reaction. The next thing is, what do you do after you stop? You got to think. Am I taking this personally? Is it about me? Is the person coming to attack me? Or maybe they're having a bad day. Or maybe, even if they are, maybe I could approach this in a different way. Because someone comes after you and freaks out on you. If you're up there in the energy with them, in the negative high energy, you guys are going to go at it. Yeah. But if you come to it on a calm plane, and it took me a long time to get there, they're going to either come down to your level of energy and calm themselves down, or they're going to walk away and say, I give up, and walk away. And they're like, because you're giving them permission to get into that issue with you.
Yes.
So that's think, what am I doing? And then the last one is respond. Don't think you have to always be right. Think about, where do I want to take this conversation? How do I want to move forward from here? And say, look, you might even say to the person, you know what? I need some time to think about what you're talking about. And analyze it for myself and see, and come back to you with a calm answer. Mm-hmm. And change that confrontation back to a conversation.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Makes so much sense. And what great advice for leaders there, right? Because they're, especially if you're running a retail store or a restaurant, you're hit with stuff every day.
Oh my God.
Absolutely. Yeah. And to now know that and be able to just, what am I doing? Exactly. I love that. Right.
So I haven't told you what life means yet.
No, keep going. Yeah. Tell us what life means. Good. Yeah.
Oh, so man, here I am. I'm changing my life around, and I'm doing all these things, and I'm loving my life. I'm loving everything I'm doing. And I got to tell you, Kenny, I'm ADHD. Okay. I didn't find out until I was in my 50s that I was ADHD.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But now that I do, I was like, everything else makes sense. You know? But one of the things I started to do while I was going through this transformation was to start meditating. So can you imagine an ADHD guy meditating?
All over the place. Yeah.
All over the place. I'm like, how do people keep their mind still? How do they put everything out of their head? My brain is banging around all the time.
Yes.
But one day I was doing this meditation, and it was with one of those apps where the guy talks you through it for 10 minutes with this calm English, England voice, British voice. I'm like, okay, when is this going to be over? I can't think straight. But I went through it. And this one day I had this download of information that I really did love what I was doing in my life. And I wanted to show other people how they can do it too. So after that, I wrote for 2 hours of the things I thought that would be great to show people how they could love their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And I took the word life and I turned it into an acronym. Live incredibly full every day.
Yes. Yeah.
And it means happiness and meaningful.
Yes. Yes. Love it. I love it. So break that down now. So what does that mean for a leader that is out there, working? You said you worked the 12-hour days, and
Yeah,
got a lot of leaders doing that. Where's the impact there? Because it's absolutely phenomenal.
right. So most people are waking up in the morning and they're going, oh my God, I got to go to work now. Oh my God, I've got all these responsibilities that are on top of me. And then I got to walk into work, especially if you're in management, and deal with everything that's going on around me. If you start off the day like that, with that mindset, you're already on the downturn. You're already on the slope sliding down to having issues. So wake up in the morning and say, I get to go to work today. There are people right now in New York City on the streets by the Roosevelt Hotel who can't find a place to live.
Yes. Yes.
I get to go to work today. How lucky am I?
Mm-hmm.
And then change that mindset. And it starts with gratitude. Wake up in the morning, pull out a nice quality type of notebook, not one of these little flimsy things, like go get a moleskin type of notebook and write down every morning 3 things you're grateful for. I'm so happy that it's a nice day today.
Yes.
I'm so happy that my coffee tasted great today. Whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And just go on with your day. Then for me, I pray. I pray to God. I'm Orthodox Jewish. I know I don't look it, but I'm Orthodox Jewish, modern Orthodox. And I pray and I put on the straps, what we call tefillin. And there's one moment where you put the straps around your finger where God is betrothing himself to you with the words that you're saying.
Yes.
And at that moment, I feel my connection to God.
Mm-hmm.
That God is with me in my life. And I give it up to God. Right. And then I start my day by saying to myself, I live incredibly full every day. And by doing this mantra, and your mantra could be whatever it is for you, you're setting yourself up for success instead of looking for the problems. So now you go into your office and someone comes to you and says, this is going on, and this is going on. Why not turn to them and say, well, what would you think would be a good way to fix this? Be a leader. Yeah. Don't breathe down their throat and say, how could you let this happen? What are you doing? I don't know. You're being a boss right there. You're pushing off the blame. Accept the responsibility, but also turn to your people and say, I'm going to accept responsibility. You accept responsibility. Let's do this together. Let's figure it out. And set up protocols of when things can happen, when things can happen. I read a book recently about that multitasking is a myth, and it really is.
It really is. Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Martin, what great advice, man. And it turns it around, and what better perspective, and you can relate to this. I can remember going to fancy meetings in the Roosevelt Hotel in my days with Sprint and conferences and stuff like that. And then I read that it's been closed for several years. I didn't quite realize that. And now it's such a place where it's unbelievable to see people, just in the street, and think about how blessed we are, that we have something to do every day, and just keeping it in perspective.
Exactly. And it's about changing the way you're thinking.
Yes. Yeah.
Listen, I got to I get to, or I can't to ultimately I can, but on the way, instead of saying I can't, and if you're not at the I can point, say, well, how can I?
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I can't afford to do this.
Absolutely.
Well, instead, how can I afford to do it?
Yes.
What can I do to make it work out?
Absolutely.
And be proactive.
Yeah, absolutely. it's funny. You broke down mindset perfectly. I had that down here that I was going to ask you that. So I want to I want to be respectful of your time and get two more questions from you.
All good. We got
Um,
all the time you need.
well, well, thank you for that. Um, I, give us a couple of tips today. You've been through it, man. You've been there and back. Leaders coming up, particularly leaders that are young and really want an opportunity to at some point get to like the C-suite.
Yeah.
What would be two or three? You gave some great advice already. What's a couple of other pieces of advice in this world today, in this work place today, the
Yeah.
ever-changing workplace today, that you would give leaders that are coming up now?
Right. So first thing is, there's a couple of other concepts that I have in my course, in my teaching, in my coaching. One is about building your emotional strength, right? Which is I talked about stop, think, and respond. So that's early in my course because it's something that they can use and they can build on. Later, I coach about building your emotional strength and understanding the difference between emotions and feelings. Okay, so I took the word life and broke it down to another acronym. Okay, number one, listen to your inner voice and acknowledge your emotions. Okay, you're angry, right? You're freaking out angry. So now what? If you start to put down words to it and put down things, you start to become more aware of what you go, where you're going to go. So the next one is identify the type of feelings you have to the emotion. To me, an emotion is that immediate thing you feel as soon as you get it. The feeling is, what kind of feeling am I having towards that emotion? I'm angry. Well, are you at the top of the list where you're enraged? Or is it somewhere lower down on the list where you're just kind of like a little ticked off? Now, by writing it down and making it tangible, you're getting to understand it. And what I do is, they have a free gift I'll give you to your audience afterwards, which is a chart showing the different types of emotions, and down each one is a column showing the feelings associated with that: strong, medium, light feelings. So you take this and you write down, okay, I'm angry. Number two, what kind of anger? Number three, find out why. Question yourself. Put yourself on trial. Be the prosecutor and the witness at the same time. Why are you feeling this?
Yes.
Did somebody hurt you? How did they hurt you? Or did they help you? Whatever it is. And then the last one of this is the E: engage in change and take action. So I'll give you a quick example. After my divorce, a couple of years later, my son was getting married. And as I mentioned, I'm Jewish, and we have a tradition sometimes where the Saturday before the wedding, the boy goes to synagogue, he gets special honors and stuff like that, and then you have a lunch for him. So I thought we had decided we weren't doing this. Now, remember, I live 60 miles away from my family now because I moved back to New York, and I don't drive on Saturday because it's not something, and I didn't know about it anyway. I find out on Monday, my son comes back and says, "Oh, Dad, I'm so embarrassed. Mommy made a lunch for me, invited my future in-laws, invited other family members, and you weren't there." Now, the old me would have gotten on the phone. First thing is, I would have beat him up emotionally.
Yeah.
I don't believe it. I can't believe you did this. I go, Caesar, it's not on you. Thank you for telling me. The next thing I would have done, the old me, would have called my wife, my ex, and ripped her a new one.
Yes.
What are you doing? Now, who would I have served with that? Myself, my ego. Right? I had the wedding in 2 days. Imagine if I did that. The cloud that would have been over the wedding.
Yeah.
She would have been upset. He would have been upset. They would have told my family. Oh, there's Martin again doing his old shtick of going crazy.
Yes.
So I thought about it. I reached out to family members who I trusted and coaches and said, this is what's going on, and this is what I'm going to do about it. I talked it through with someone, and I decided that I'm going to compartmentalize it, put it in the back, and wait till after the wedding. 2 days after the wedding, I called my wife, my ex, and I said, this is what you did. This is the message you sent to our children. It was controlled anger. People think coaches teach you to never be anger. No, it's understanding how to use your anger.
Yes. Yes.
So control, and I spoke for 10, 15 minutes. I don't even know how long it was. And whether she heard a word of it or not, I don't care. It was about me
Yeah.
serving myself at that moment. And I ended the conversation by saying, thank you for divorcing me. And that was kind of like my closure. So build your emotional strength. Okay.
Man, oh man, that is so awesome. And I, I'm meeting your advice there. So awesome. Hey, thanks for divorcing me. I'm sorry. We, but you're saying things with such grace and your own humility, and you just think about if that had happened in 2008, 2009.
Oh,
Forget it. You would have just, been off the chain.
oh my God. I think there would have been a true nuclear explosion.
Oh, no doubt.
People would have been dead.
we, we would have felt it out here.
That's
But
right.
but that serves such a great purpose. And what great advice for leaders, because you can take any situation any day and apply that second
Exactly.
acronym to it. Because and especially when you have that control anger, and I'm so glad you said that too many people tell you, hey, don't ever get angry, and they don't tell you how, and how you
That's
can.
not real life.
Exactly. It's just not. Wow, Martin, this has been incredible. I could talk to you for the next 10 hours,
Thank
and
you.
nonstop. And God bless you, first of all, and thank you for what you're doing. We need people like you. Your website is amazing, by the way, and
Oh,
that's going to
thank
be
you.
my last question. I
Yeah.
want to give you time and space now to let people know how they can connect with you, get some free stuff,
Mhm.
from your website, but how they can work with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first thing is, Kenny, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure being here with you.
Thank
You
you.
are a fantastic host, and your audience is well served by coming to your show. I've listened to some of your shows.
Thank you.
You're fantastic. So thank
Thank
you for
you.
having me.
Thank you.
And for me, I made it simple. I came up with a website called connectwithmartin.com. Easy to remember.
Can't get it. Yes, absolutely.
You go to that website, you could get a link to buy my book. You can get a link to get the cards. And for me, the cards are great because you can carry them around, pull a card out whenever you feel like you gotta work on something. And there's also free stuff. You can get the download for building your emotional strength. There's a couple of other free gifts there. If you've got a kid at heart or you have children in your life, I have coloring books for adults and kids that are free.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
And there's also a link that you can make an appointment to talk with me and see where we can go from there.
Awesome. Awesome. That is so awesome. And I jotted myself two things down real quick. I'll say this last thing. I'm gonna definitely get the book because I saw it this morning and I'm like, I gotta get that Worrier to Warrior.
Yeah,
And I have this expression that you can't worry and pray at the same time. And
that's true.
I think it's so true, and but how do you go from there, to being a prayer warrior or a warrior just in life? But also, the coloring book, we chuckle a little bit, but how vital is it to learn these skills at a younger age?
Oh my God.
It
I
is
wish I wish I knew these things when I was
so
growing up.
myself included. And so that is just so awesome. I listen, man, I thank you so much for being so generous with your time. And thank you for all of the wisdom that that you gave today. May God continue to bless your journey. We
Thank you.
need people like you to bring some sanity back, right? Not just to the workplace, but to the
This
world,
insane
man.
world we're in.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to leave it there, folks. This has been the Leading from the Middle podcast with Kenny and Martin. We will talk to you real soon.